Good afternoon. We want to welcome you to the Passageways Onboard webinar for the month of October. Can you believe it, Dean? It's already the middle of October. We are cruising into fall.
Yeah, it's moving quickly.
Trees are turning and things are changing fast. And we also want to make sure that you are keeping up with how to use OnBoard in the most effective way. So today's webinar is called Effective Use of Announcements and the Dashboard. We're really excited to have you with us today. We want to make sure that everybody is able to follow along. So first, we're going to introduce your host today. My name is Tim Vire. I'm one of the customer success managers with the OnBoard team.
And I'm Dean Floyd. I'm a customer success manager as well.
Dean and I work together. We both reach out to different segments of business, though. Dean, tell us about who you work with.
I primarily work with our education customers and the healthcare customers.
And I work with financial institutions, which largely for me includes credit unions and banks and a few others that are tied to the financial industry. And we're both excited to be able to have you join us today. We do want to make sure that everybody is able to hear. And so if you're not hearing my voice right now, this screen is going to be really important to those who can't hear. So we're going to give a moment for those who may be having any audio trouble to visit the screen, understand how to get linked into us for the audio portion. We want to make sure everybody gets that. And on that note, we also want to make sure to remind you that after today's webinar, within a couple of days, we'll be sending out a copy of the recording, as well as the slide presentation that you're going to be seeing today. And you'll note that there are at the end some resources with some links to some really cool things that will be helpful to you. So you want to make sure you watch for that email that should get out to you hopefully by the end of this week. So now we hope everybody's tuned in. We want to just make sure you understand how to use the different features today that will help you interact with us. First, if you have any questions that you want to pose to Dean and I, we want to ask you to use the Q&A button for the questions. That'll help us know those are coming to us so that we need to answer them. Some of those we may answer live. Others we may answer online. We want to make sure that we keep up with everybody, and we might save a couple till the end, and we do have a Q&A session planned for the end of our time. If you're having any problem with today's presentation, or you have a question that's outside the scope of our webinar, and you want to send a message to us directly, please use the chat button for that. Again, that's not for questions about the webinar topic. That is really just for things that are more direct to Dean or I, or any issue you're having with the webinar.
All right, so there are 3 topics that we are going to cover today, and then we will just wrap up, like Tim said, with any questions you may have for us. So we're going to first look at the differences between announcements and the dashboard, and then we will go through through more of an overview of each of these, including best practices, ideas, screenshots from some of our customers, and then how to set up these features within OnBoard. All right, so just when looking at the announcements versus the dashboard, I've broken it down into 3 questions, which I'm going to answer. The first question is, who has access to these features? The announcements are part of every OnBoard package. So if you have OnBoard, you have the ability to create and use announcements. The dashboard, however, is part of either our enterprise package or the collaboration suite. In our prior package structure, the enterprise package has access to all features, which included the dashboard. And then in our new packaging structure, the collaboration suite is an add-on package that also includes the dashboard, the ability to share annotations, and our brand new secure messenger tool. So the next question is, why should you or your organization use announcements? This is an easy place to communicate a variety of information, and you can even separate and create different announcement panels for different types of announcements that you want to share. This can help drive your board engagement with the OnBoard product. And this is just one more way you can make OnBoard the one-stop shop for everything related to your board. In the next section, I will discuss the different ways you can use announcements and some ideas for making the most of this feature. The last question states, why is the dashboard helpful? The dashboard offers a place for your board members to keep and see everything within OnBoard all in one place. For those who have board members who are not as tech savvy, having information for their upcoming meetings, announcements, their more frequented resources, and pending actions all in one place will just require less effort and create more efficiency for your members. And later on, we will explore what all can be added to the dashboard and how you can customize it for your organization's needs. So there are a few more items I want to cover regarding the announcements before we get into our examples. First off, there really is no limit to the type of communication you can share through the announcements. To help you get started, we have a few suggestions for announcement content. Keep in mind that you can set up multiple announcement panels with different headers to organize the different types of communications to your users. The first idea we have for you is to share news about your business or organization, such as goals or targets being met, big changes to products, new facilities, or anything else going on with the organization. Another idea is that you can share news relevant to the board. One idea may be to post about new board member introductions and include a picture and a bio for that new board member. You can even pass along updates on OnBoard, such as new features with links to our training materials in the OnBoard Help Center. The third idea would be to put all the event information in the announcements. This could be fundraising events like a gala or 5K, or any events you may want your board members to attend or be aware of. You can also update the announcement after the event with a link to the event photos. Using photos will help draw attention to the announcements. So you can use links also to help users quickly navigate within OnBoard or to an article or event outside of the OnBoard portal. These are just a few helpful tips to making your announcements more effective. And you can also set the permissions within the announcements so that they are only seen by certain individuals. Of course, you also have the option to permission all users if it is something you want everyone on your team to see. So let's take a look at some customer examples, and then we will review some quick screenshots on how to build the announcements. All right, so here are a few customer examples in the education space. You can see how this group uses the header newsroom to share campus news. Each announcement only has a limited amount of text. Here are a few more examples. The top right example shows the announcements from a mobile device perspective. In the bottom screenshot, you'll notice that there aren't many words, so there's a lot more white space. However, if this was viewed on a mobile device, there would be much less white space seen. This is a good thing to keep in mind since a good amount of your board members will access the portal from a phone or tablet. You'll see here that the bottom photo is titled Upcoming Events. And then at the top, the photo says Pinned in the upper right-hand corner. This is a setting where you can choose what announcements are pinned at the top. This group here shows when board packets are available with a link to the calendar and agenda, so it's linked within OnBoard. Keep in mind that you can adjust the format by clicking on Edit in the right-hand corner when you see the red circle, or where you see the red circle. You then have the options seen on the right. These options let you change the announcements to 1 or 2 columns. What we've looked at up till now has been announcements using 1 column, so this is an example of what the 2-column view looks like, which you'll see does not include a photo. While photos are always a good idea to capture the viewer's attention, the 2-column setting may be best for content where you do not wish to share a photo. Keep in mind that you can have multiple announcement panels, like I've said, and format each one differently. All right, now we will look at how to set up announcements. And on the dashboard tab, you will navigate to announcements and then click on Add New in the top right-hand corner. This screen seen here will help, or is where you will go to set up an announcement. The title and description can say whatever you would like, and keep in mind that you can utilize links to avoid having that overly lengthy description. An image can be added on the right side by clicking Add Image or dragging and dropping the image you would like. You can also add an expiration date, which is when you want the announcement to go away. We've already talked about adding a link, and you can do this by first adding the display name for the link and then the actual URL. We also talked about pinning the announcements to the top. The checkbox is where you would select that option. For permissions, you can use any group that you have set up or choose the first option, which is all members. The announcements will remain in draft mode until you publish it, which is in the upper right-hand corner. Publishing will notify the users that are permissioned to see that announcement. So here's an example of an announcement setup page that's been completed and published. You have the option of notifying the users again by clicking Notify on the top right. And you can also replace the image that you have selected by clicking Remove Image and then selecting a new one. So now that we've covered announcements, I'm going to pass it over to Tim, who's going to review the dashboard.
Thanks, Dean. And again, we want to remind you all that announcements is a feature that all OnBoard users have. So as an admin, every one of you on the line today, if you're an admin or a person who has the ability to create meetings in OnBoard, you have the announcement feature. So we're segueing now, like Dean said, to a dashboard overview. And dashboard is something that you have available if you have our collaboration package or the what we used to call the enterprise package. This is a feature that allows you to expand beyond announcements, which are, as you can see, pretty extensive on what you can cover, but also to get into more of the other functional areas of OnBoard and be able to help people kind of connect with those. So the dashboard is sort of your personalized homepage. It's a way to provide information about your organization, to inform users about upcoming meetings, remind your decision makers about pending actions they need to make, and provide direct links to items in your resource center. All of this is laid out in various panels that guide the user based on their permission level to the posted content, which helps them to be focused on exactly what they need to know and be doing. You can actually post multiple panels to provide a variety of information and access points. This is where you can be creative and determine what is it that you really need to put out there and who's going to be able to see what. Here on this screen, we're looking at the panel layout tool. From here, you can pick which panels you want to include and place them in whatever order you like. You can make your choices about the panels and their order by selecting the edit button there next to that gold arrow. While you're in the edit mode, you can add and reorder the panels to fit your needs. And again, this can be changed anytime you want. So as you're moving through your days, weeks, and months in your year, you may choose to reorder things depending on the priority and their importance to people and the ease of seeing them. You can have as many panels and multiple panels of different types of the same thing as you like. As you can see here, for instance, I've got 3 different resource sections that are aimed at different groups and folders that we want them to be able to access through the dashboard. So the welcome panel is typically the first thing your users are going to see when they're coming into the dashboard. You want to make sure that you place information here that really highlights your organization and its purpose. Here's a couple of examples of welcome panels. As you can see on the screen here, you can also have multiple panels that can cover whatever you want to highlight. These things could include your mission statement, your vision statement, your values, and any other general information about your organization that you want your users to be able to see, and they'll all see the same thing. Setting up the welcome panel is pretty quick and easy, actually. You can name the panel whatever fits your need. Here we've titled it Welcome to InFocus Credit Union. This not a real credit union, by the way. Then you add the actual content for the message that you want to share. You can even include a URL so that you can link people to a website right from the dashboard page. Should you want to do that, you just list the link there and it will then show up for them to be able to hit. To add a picture file or your logo, you simply select the Add Photo button that you see there next to that blue arrow. Once you pick that, you can go out to your computer and upload any standard picture file that you want to upload there. Once you've loaded that file, it will look like this, and then you can, if you need to change it, you hit Remove Photo, and you can change to another photo file if you need to. The upcoming meetings section, the content here is driven by the meetings that you've created in OnBoard. In this panel, however, your users will only see meetings that are listed for them as they've been permissioned into those meetings. So if you have one person who is on the board, they will see things that are related to board meetings. If another person is only on, say, a committee, they will only see things that are aimed at that committee and their permission to. So not everybody will necessarily see the same thing here. That's the great thing, because that way it's user-driven content, and they know that when they go, they're going to see what they need to see. Right now on this screen, we're showing you a couple different views. On the left-hand side is a standard PC view, also probably similar to a lot of these tablet apps. On the right side would be a view from an iOS app. Actually, this was snapped from an iOS phone, and you can kind of see the different look there. This on the screen right now is the 2-column view, which I'm going to show you how to set up in a moment. But if you have any permission group that tends to pile up on a lot of meetings that are going to post, there's a couple of things you can do to make it easier for them to view and access those meetings. Let's take a look behind the curtain here on setting up meetings panel. Again, you give it the name that you want to give. We've called it upcoming meetings here. A couple of choices you have here. Again, this goes back to that viewability option you have. You can decide how many different meetings are going to be listed per page before your user needs to hit the next page button and move to see the next set of meetings. So if you have any of your users, this could be many of you have this happen, who would maybe have 6, 8 meetings that could be lining up here. You know, you might not want to have only 2 showing up and they have to hit next over and over again. Then again, you may not want to have 8 or 12 because that's a lot to look at in one screen. So you decide how many you want to show per screen level. You can also, though, divide it up by changing how many columns they view in, and that just makes it easier visually to see what those meetings are and to move and select one of those. And again, this is all driven by permissions, so people are only going to see what they have been invited to through the permission setting in any of those meetings. Pending actions, again, driven by permission. This is the place where any of your folks who are making decisions based on the approvals, surveys, and e-signatures process in the actions tool, part of OnBoard, this is where they're going to find those linked. And again, it's going to be only what they have been permissioned to see. And much like the meetings section, you can see you have the PC view on the left here, the iOS app view on the right. This is just what the experience looks like. Setting it up is very much like the meeting section. You once you've named it, you can determine here if you want to show all of the actions that might be available, or if you only want to show a certain kind. So it may be that if the approvals is the most important to you to have people see on the dashboard, you could hit the drop down and only have approvals showing here. Could be e-signatures. It depends on what your need is and what you want to drive the most. Again, that comes down to what you are utilizing the most in OnBoard. Again, you have the per number per page, as well as the column. You also have one more option here, which is card style or list style, which allows you to have just again, a text list, or the panels, the little cards that you'll see here as we keep moving along, that again, makes it easier to lay out and be able to view. Next would be the resource panel. And again, you can have more than one panel. And what I've got here really are 3 different panels, because we have 3 different types of groups that could be using this. In this example here, we have the board minutes, which would of course be for board members and anybody who attends board meetings. And they can actually link right to the list of meetings that are in that folder. So if you have 2 or 3 months that are still out there live for them to get, you can link to it right there. If you have an entire year's worth, they could do that. Business operations might be your executive team, as an example. Here in this folder, we have a business continuity plan. So those folks that are responsible for keeping things running, should you have some sort of natural disaster or emergency, which we hope never happens. But if you have a business continuity plan, you're prepared, and you can have it right here and accessible through the dashboard. Last, you may have a budget committee or an expense committee who has to approve expenses that are being submitted by the board, perhaps for their travel or other things that are related to their board activity. And this would be a way for them to link right to that. Again, the important thing to remember is that this is all driven by permission. So you're only going to have users seeing what is something that they have been permissioned to see. They're not going to see other people's links or items that are made available to them. Setting up the resource section, very much like the other sections, with one little difference, and that is this. In addition to having how many you want to display per page and 1 or 2 columns and the card style or list style, you have to pick a folder. And that's why you have more than one panel. So each panel can point to a folder. And so the example here, we show that if you remember, I had the board meetings panel there a minute ago. That board meeting minutes is listed here. And on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see where I've selected board meeting minutes. And then when I hit that blue select button, that's what actually links that then to the dashboard, so that the people who are permissioned to see board minutes can indeed see them and open them right from the dashboard screen. One last thing as we're kind of finishing up what the dashboard brings available to you, and that is this. You have the option of choosing where your users are going to land when they log into OnBoard. You can have them land on the meeting list, which will only then just show them all of the upcoming meetings that they are permissioned to be a part of, or you can actually point them right to the dashboard, which is what we've just walked through. Our OnBoard pro tip would be to set the dashboard as your landing page, as opposed to the meeting list, because you'll be able to drive your users to take advantage of all the rest of the content. And obviously, you typically are going to have a lot more going on than just the meetings, and you're going to want to point them to resources that tie into those meetings and other things that they're involved with. Now, Dean, have we had any questions coming in as we've been talking, going through the different material?
We haven't had any questions come in yet. We had one that I did answer already, and I will go through that here live. But just a reminder that you can use the Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom screen to ask any questions that you may have. The one question that we did have come in was regarding publishing the announcement and whether it will you can choose to not notify your users. Right now at this time, we do have that set as something that is automatically sent out. So your users, when the announcement is published, will automatically get that notification. So that is something that we can keep in mind for future releases of not allowing that. But we think that if it's important enough for you to be announcing it, then those who don't log in very frequently will need to have, it gives them the option of being able to know that an announcement's been posted.
One of the things that Dean and I thought would be really interesting to find out today would be to ask, again, because all of you have at least announcements available, how many of you as meeting admins are currently using the announcement sections? If you would, just go to your chat window and just type a yes if you are. If you're not using it, you don't need to worry about responding. We'll save you the trouble. But if you are using announcements at all right now, would you please go to chat and just say yes? We're really curious. You'd be surprised how many times we're on the phone with customers and we talk through how they're using OnBoard, which we love to do, by the way. And we find out sometimes that people are actually not using it. And obviously, one of our big goals here is to help you be positioned to use every part of OnBoard that you have available. And since everybody has this, we are really excited about the idea of people using it. So Dean, what's the response rate? I see a lot of flashing on your screen there.
Yeah, it's overwhelming amount of yeses coming in. We have had a couple say that they've only used it once or twice. So that's great. I'm hoping this webinar will help you understand just some different ways that you can utilize that more.
Great. Now, one more question. For those of you that have dashboard available, we're going to do the same thing. We're keeping it simple today, but if you have dashboard available, would you now then go ahead and answer yes to dashboard so that we can find out how many of you are making use of that who have it available? And I see the yeses flying in here. This is great, Dean.
Yeah.
This is really encouraging. We really want you to make use of what you have available. And when you have a package that includes extra features, we are really interested in making sure that you're using those.
So we have a couple other questions that came in.
Good.
One question is, could there be an option to use a bold or underline within the announcements?
So currently there's not an ability to edit text in that way. So the answer would be no, but we would love to submit that as a product enhancement request. And so we'll take note of that and get that to our product development team.
Another question that we had come in is, if you're unsure that your announcement is ready to go out, or you may want to make changes, how can you do that without notifying your users every time you make a change? So I can take that one. So you have the option to leave the announcement in a draft view. And so that will just leave it in a draft until you're ready to publish. Once you publish it, you are able to make changes, and then you have the option of notifying at the top if you do want to re-notify, but you wouldn't have to.
So we had a question come in also that is there a way to move logos or pictures around on the announcements? And at this point in time, they are relegated to that right-hand side. And so again, And by the way, we love to get feedback on ideas for OnBoard that you think would help make it better and more usable. So we're going to submit that one also to be able to, and I, by the way, that's not the first time I've heard that, to be able to have a little bit more creative ability there on the announcement panel. So we'll get that idea in to have post pictures and or logos posted someplace else besides the right-hand side.
And then I got a question saying, is there an option to preview the announcement before publishing? And yes, there is. If you look at the top right, when you are in the draft mode, you have two options. One is to publish and one is to show the announcement. And that lets you see the preview there. Another question that we had come in addition to photos, can you post videos?
So you can post a URL. The video will not play back inside of OnBoard, but it will link to the location the URL is located. So if it's a YouTube video, then you can post that link there by all means, and it will then take them out of the OnBoard app into whatever app that the URL lives in. So you definitely can. So a great idea for that would be if you have an event and you want to be, and you have maybe some video from the event, maybe something really funny of your CEO, that'd be great, right? But you post that link right there in the announcements and share what happened at the event that was great and awesome. And then they can go out and they can have the fun with you even though they couldn't attend. Any other questions? Because we want to stay true to our schedule today. We want to respect your time. We know you're all incredibly busy, but we love answering questions. So we'll give about another 30 seconds here to see if anything else shows up.
One quick one that came in as well is, if I have already published my announcement, how could I add permissions to it? And so the answer to that would just be going back into your announcement, going back to that setup page as the admin. And at the bottom, you have the option to change your permissions once it's been published. If that's the case, you may want to re-notify just to let those that did not see it then see that as well.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, one of the things we told you about earlier that we were going to provide you with was some information about things having to do with passageways. We also, we do want to make sure and let you know that we do have another product that Passageways makes available as an employee intranet. And so if you are, your organization is using an intranet that you're not really thrilled with and you want really the best one, give your CSM a call or shoot us an email and let us know. We'd love to have you talk to our team about the Ensemble intranet product. And we think that you'd be very happy if you were able to check that out and get that into play in your organization. The resources that we promised you are right here. And so on here, there is an address that many of you probably already are familiar with, the obpros@passageways.com address. That comes to our OnBoard customer success team. And there are many of us that watch that box. It comes to every one of us. And we watch that. And so we get answers back very quickly with that address. It may not always be from your assigned CSM, but it will be the first available person. And then also there's our contact information for our technical support team. So if you're ever trying to build an announcement or a dashboard panel and it's not working the way that you thought it was going to work, something's not happening, feel free to also reach out to the tech support team if you need to. On the right-hand side of this screen, and again, these are all live links that when you get this recording, you'll be able to hit and visit. We've highlighted the training video on setting up the OnBoard dashboard page. So if you own the dashboard, but you have not used it yet, or you're not really sure how to use it, and you want a little bit more than today's webinar, this video will take you through step by step on how to get that dashboard page set up and include all the great elements that we showed you today. There are also some other great resources listed here. We hope you'll take advantage of those. We want to say thanks for joining us today, and Dean, I've had fun. How about you?
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks everyone for joining in and listening to these different ideas, and I hope it's something that you can take away to your team and utilize the dashboard and announcements much more effectively.
Absolutely. And remember, there's no question. It's not a great question to ask. If you're not sure how to use something in OnBoard, please don't sit there in the dark wondering what to do and then not do it. Reach out to the CSM team, either through that obpros@passageways.com or directly to your CSM. And we would love to be able to answer questions. We'll even help you set it up. If you need to, we'll set up a screen sharing session and go in with you and help you get your dashboard set up. We'd love nothing more than to make sure you're successfully using OnBoard. Thanks very much, everybody, and we hope you have a great rest of your day and your week. Happy fall.